to Mr. Snyder and to Bruce Allen, just if there was any interest in trading me, just to try to get an understanding of their perspective. And it was a very positive conversation in the sense that he spoke belief in me and really affirmed me in my role. And and then I'm at a shoe store later that day after Chris Mortensen reported that, and the guy fitting my wife her shoes says, "I heard you demanded a trade," and I laughed and I thought, I don't know where that comes from, because that just wasn't the case. Somehow it can get twisted to where an employee at a store is using the word demand, but that's certainly not the approach that I took.
I call that the game of telephone. That was Kirk Cousins saying he never demanded a trade and just wanted to know the Redskins' plans for him getting the franchise tag after that. So according to Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, there's a growing belief in some circles that the Browns will try to acquire Cousins. But according to Mary Kay Cabot of the Cleveland Plain Dealer, the Browns aren't expected to do so. Stephen A., whose side are you on in this one, the Redskins or Kirk Cousins?
I'm definitely on Kirk Cousins' side on this one. I don't think there's any question about that. When you consider the fact that he just threw for 4,917 yards last season, there are certainly big moments where he comes up small that you would like to see him elevate his stature to star-studded status. That has not happened, but he is still a better than average quarterback. Clearly, you don't look at him and say he's the reason why the Redskins continuously find themselves on the outside looking in of things, even though they were in the playoffs last year before they lost to Green Bay and they didn't make it to the playoffs this go round. But 4,917 yards. The season before that, his first as a starter, 4,166 yards passing. What do you have here? You have a situation where he's thrown 54 touchdowns in the last 2 years and just, 23 interceptions. And so when you look at it from that perspective, there's clearly some production that cannot be ignored. Now, if you produce on this level and you see scrubs or individuals who are leaderless, who will remain nameless from the quarterback position that are getting paid an exorbitant amount of dollars, your attitude is, for your Kirk Cousins, I understand you're franchise tagging me and I get $19.95 million for last season. I got $23.9 coming to me this upcoming season. But where's the long-term commitment? Asking about that, inquiring about that to the Washington Redskins is different than flat out demanding that they trade me. Because if you demand that they trade you and make things that cantankerous and uncomfortable, who knows who they could end up trading you to? I don't care how much money Kirk Cousins wants. He does not want to get traded to the Cleveland Browns at this particular juncture. Knowing that, I'm reticent about, or hesitant rather, to say that he demanded it. I think that he asked and inquired, what exactly is y'all intent with me? What do y'all plan on doing with me? And try to work out some kind of gentleman's agreement that in the event that you do decide to move me, at least have the decency to tell me and don't ship me to Cleveland.
I'm on Kirk Cousins' side versus maybe the most dysfunctional franchise in the NFL. They're challenging the Rams for that distinction. And given the name of the franchise, which I will not repeat on the air, it's the one I like least, as a matter of fact. I think Dan Snyder is a terrible owner. I think that's where the dysfunction starts. Look at the way they just handled the firing of the GM, which reports are didn't sit very well with the players. Why would it? The place is a mess. I was also on Cindy Lou Who's side against the Grinch. I mean, like, whose side are you on? Kirk Cousins, nice guy, quarterback, has been doing pretty well. Or the Washington franchise? Kirk Cousins. Now, do I think he just wants to go anywhere? Stephen A.? No, I've been saying it. I don't think he demanded anything. It's not his personality anyway. But did he go and ask? Yeah, I can see him going to ask, particularly when in San Francisco there's a coach who wants him. And ostensibly a franchise who will give him a multi-year deal, which Washington has not yet done. They don't obviously believe in him. Now, I'm a little suspicious of Kirk Cousins going forward as a better than average quarterback, but an average quarterback has value in the NFL. You're one of the, 12 to 18 best quarterbacks, 15 to 20 best quarterbacks even in the league. That has real value. It's like being an average starting point guard in the NBA. It's a hell of a player. That said, the franchise that knows him best has not yet committed long-term to him. What does that tell you, and what does that tell him about that franchise when a place like San Francisco seems willing to? So would he go and ask? Sure. Demand doesn't seem to me to be his style. You and I agree about that.
We do agree.
All right, let's move on here then and talk about some other quarterbacks in the NFC South. So Ted Ginn left the Panthers this offseason and signed a 3-year, $11 million deal to play with Drew Brees and the Saints. Now, one of the biggest reasons he left was Drew Brees saying he's the type of guy that can extend your career. Ginn is 32 years old and is coming off a season where he had just over 750 yards and 4 touchdowns with Cam Newton. Max.
Yep.
Who would you rather have right now, Drew Brees or Cameron Newton?
I got to tell you, sometimes the questions we ask on this show are good questions because you know you're going to feel strongly about it one way, and maybe Stephen Ailes feels strongly the other, or maybe we'll agree. This is a good question because I think it's a tough call. Now, ultimately, I will give Drew Brees the benefit of the doubt because he's Drew Brees. Year after year, he's at least really good. But last year, once again, you know if you play fantasy, last year, inconsistent. He was inconsistent. And when a 37-year-old is inconsistent, you have to start asking questions, which I have of Drew Brees. Furthermore, Cam Newton, behind a bad offensive line, with receivers who wouldn't run routes, the whole thing, with no running back, had a bad year, for sure. The year before, he was the MVP of the NFL. I'm pretty sure Drew Brees also played that season, meaning that it was unanimous that, you know, or it really was, it didn't have to be, but that Cam Newton was better than Drew Brees that year. That was the year before last. Cam Newton was voted by his peers that season, going into last season, as a matter of fact, by his peers, voted the best player in the NFL. Now, he did not live up to that. Partly that's on him, partly that's on the pieces around him. But we've seen him able to attain lofty, you know, extremely rare heights. And that included a league with Drew Brees in it. I will give Drew Brees the benefit of the doubt, but this is much closer than it would appear based on last season alone.
To me, it's Drew Brees all day, and it's not even close. And I don't say that as an insult to Cam Newton, who I think is great, is a great and phenomenal talent, whose upside is tremendous. I've got nothing but profound respect for him. I'm speaking about just as a basic testament to the greatness of Drew Brees. Let's consider this. In the last 11 years, Drew Brees has thrown for at least 4,000 plus yards. 5 or 6 times in that 11-year period, it's been for over 5,000 yards. Since 2008, he has never thrown for less than 32 touchdowns in a season. And over the last 3 or 4 years, easily, he has carried the Saints on his back in terms of their offensive, you know, in terms of the potent offense, because their defense is flat out stunk. Just ask Rob Ryan why he can't find a job these days. So when you take all of that into consideration and you look at the accuracy, the pocket passing, you know, the presence in the pocket, the feel for defensive presence coming your way, knowing how to maneuver through that terrain and not necessarily exposing your body to the viciousness that Cam Newton exposes himself to. And you combine that with the fact that Drew Brees has completed an average of 66.6% of his passes throughout his career, where Cam Newton has only touched 60% at least twice in his career. There's really nothing to talk about here. Drew Brees is phenomenal. When we talk about Drew Brees, we're talking about Tom Brady, we're talking about Aaron Rodgers, we're talking about Drew Brees in that sentence.
Yep, I agree. I agree with that, although I think Andrew Luck will be better than Drew Brees this upcoming season, and I think of Cam and Luck together over the long haul. And I would remind you, they need a running game. And who did McShay have Fournette going to in the draft? The Carolina Panthers. Now imagine that team, Cam Newton, with a running back like that. What will that do for him? And then consider the downgrade from Cooks to Ginn for Drew Brees. I think it's going to be much closer than people suspect.
Well, what I would say to you, Max, is that give Cam Newton a Leonard Fournette or a potent running back. Give him an elite wide receiver. I think that he'll have a phenomenal year. I think that he'll win football games. I still don't think he'll throw with the accuracy of Drew Brees.
He won't. He won't.
I want to throw
player.
one thing at you, though, and I get Drew Brees has obviously been consistent throughout his entire career, and Cam had one especially phenomenal season. But for right now, there's an 11-year age gap we're talking about. So wanting one of those guys right now, one's 27, one's 38, and the other thing that I'd add is as far as who Ted Ginn would want, obviously Cam pounds the rock a lot more, so he's not going to get as many catches potentially as a Drew Brees. Did either of those factor in for you?
Well, first of all, to address your first question, that would happen to buffer my point about Drew Brees, because if I recall correctly, Molly asked who would we want right now.
Yeah, right now.
I mean, because I'm thinking about right now. I'm not thinking 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the line. I'm thinking about right now. Who would I want right now at the quarterback spot? It would be Drew Brees. When it comes to Ted Ginn Jr., obviously, I mean, don't get me wrong, he's dropped a few of Cam Newton's passes, so he's got himself to look in the mirror about as well. But he's a speedster. He can fly, and more importantly, if you want to be a deep threat, who do you have more faith in terms of getting you the football? It would happen to be Drew Brees.
Who Ted Ginn wants, that makes a lot of sense, Drew Brees, because he is the more accurate passer, but that's just one facet of the game.
He airs it out more, period.
Yeah, and by the way, and they play indoors in a controlled environment.
Hold on, Max. You made me laugh when you said that. I'm sorry. I got to pause and laugh. So let me get this straight.
Yeah.
We're talking about the quarterback position.
Sure.
We openly concede that Drew Brees is significantly more accurate.
Yes.
But you're going to sit up there and just say, well, that's just one component. This is a little minor component. Accuracy as a passer?
Yes.
Duh.
No,
I mean, really? Is that what you're saying?
It's not a
Accuracy as a passer. Just one little component. Let's just throw that in there.
But it is one. For example, when Cam Newton led the league in touchdowns, a lot of that was because he ran some in. So did those touchdowns not count?
I'm not saying that they didn't count. I'm saying that
you ran that in terms of criteria. You only get 3 points for that one.
I'm saying in terms of criteria, you're acting like the component of accuracy as a passer. It's just one little thing we'll throw in there.
No.
It happens to be the most important thing
the most
that
important
a quarterback should have at his disposal.
No,
That's what I'm saying.
The most important thing is being able to read defenses quickly, which also I'd say Drew Brees has the advantage there.
This is the part that's so annoying about you. Isn't that how can you be accurate if you can't read defense?
There is accuracy and precision in terms of your throwing.
About the same
First there's reading the defense, then there's your arm strength and accuracy.
So you drop back to pass. You drop back to pass as an NFL quarterback. You can't read defenses, don't know where the hell defenders are. But that's just a proponent. Of course it goes with your accuracy as a passer.
No, I will put
Who doesn't know that? Who doesn't know that?
I give Brees the slight advantage because it's not a bigger advantage because of his age and because Cam has been inconsistent. Brees reads defenses better. He's the more accurate passer. Cam does have a big arm, and he's an overall player. He can run the ball for you. He can take a licking because he's big.
What are your chances of being accurate if you can't read defenses?
Well, you can still. Those are two completely different.
What are your chances? It's a simple question.
It depends on your accuracy.
The Ivy League education notwithstanding, it's a simple question. What are your chances of being accurate if you can't read defenses?
The two things are not as related as you think. You can throw the ball where you want. Where you want may not be the right place to throw it, but where you want is accuracy. Reading defenses comes before that, is more important, and is not entirely related.
And there are people that can read defenses and still do not throw accurately.
Yes.
Well, my point to y'all is this. You're not going to be accurate if you can't read defenses.
I get it.
Why? Because if you can't, who doesn't understand that? Who doesn't understand that?
There is some overlap, but they're not the same thing.
Only Max Kellerman can turn 1 plus 1 into a damn course on calculus.
Real quick,
it's unbelievable.
I just want you to concede one thing. Does Cam Newton have value, a lot of value on the football field that is not related to his accuracy as a passer? Yes or no?
Yes.
Good. We agree about that. Right.
Wait a minute. Okay. But who would you take? But who would you take?
Molly said we have to go on.
Done.
Molly said we have to go on.
You'd still take Drew Brees.
I would love to answer the question. Molly says no.
Shouldn't we talk about hoops? I think we should talk about hoops. All right.
Unbelievable.
With the playoffs out of the equation, should the Lakers tank the rest of the season? Stephen A. will have that.